Hey, and welcome back to Continual. It is another one of our fun holiday episodes, and tonight we're going to be talking about holiday action, adventure, and romance part two. So, hopefully, you've seen the first part of this, but it's not a prerequisite. And I am your host tonight, Jim Nettles, and so we're going to be having a lot of fun, I suspect. With this crowd right here, I suspect it's going to be a lot of laughing and probably a few snarky humors. But before we go too far down that path, I'm going to ask everybody to go around and introduce themselves. Not that most of these people need to be introduced if you've been watching Continual. So, Seressia, I'm going to have you go first.
No pressure at all. Hi, everyone. I'm Seressia Glass. I write urban fantasy and romance and little paranormal romance thrown in there. And I have a book coming out at the end of this month called The Love Con, which is a romantic comedy.
How about you, Jenny?
About cosplay.
Oh, it's true about cosplay.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It's love and romance with the cosplay. I don't think it's aired yet. I think it airs tomorrow, maybe. Anyway, so that I'm rambling. How about you, Jenny?
I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series for Daw Books, and I write under as Anita Ensall, Gemma Chase, JC Koch, GJ Koch, AE Stanton, and somebody else who I always forget, because I write under a lot of pen names in all lengths and all the genres.
They call those aliases.
I call it how to make the most out of multiple personality disorder.
So, Bobby, save me for I say anything else.
I'm Bobby Nash. I write all kinds of stuff. I do a lot of crime fiction, mysteries, thrillers, action, adventure, but I also dabble in stuff like science fiction, horror, and whatever. So that's me.
So before we start diving into the really fun stuff, what is your favorite kind of rom-com action adventure film? And if it's got a holiday theme to it, you get bonus points. But I'm not going to make you stick to that. But I already know what Jenny's is. I'm going to make her go last because she's going to bust if I don't, or if I don't hold her back. So, I love things.
You do know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I do. And it's tempting to pull the plug, but, I'm going to be nice. I love things like Bad Santa. There's obviously a lot of holiday films that have both, the action adventure, blow stuff up, lots of fun sort of things, but you still have those fun family and romantic elements and other stuff to them. So, Seressia, what's your favorite?
I really love, because I grew up with the cartoons and all of that. So I really love the Rudolph special that had the heat seeker and the ice guy and Mother Nature. So that's my favorite one. Then of course the Rudolph Happy New Year one with the kid with the big ears hidden under the hat. So those are my favorite ones. So a Christmas romantic adventure one. That's a good question. I liked Scrooge, but you can't call that, where there was some action, but not necessarily, or adventure, but not necessarily action in that one. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Lee Majors comes in toting a big old shotgun at the beginning.
Well, there is, good point. There's some adrenaline rushes in there.
Anytime the Bionic Man can come in with kicking in the door with a shotgun.
Yeah.
How about you, Bobby?
I'm going to second the Rudolph stuff, because, and I know we're going to get to talking about a lot of things that, like these action adventure movies that take place at Christmas. We always talk about Die Hard and Lethal Weapon and like Batman Returns, but Rudolph, that is a very action packed. They're being chased, hunted. There's all kind of fighting and action, and are we going to die? I think that was probably for me the first holiday action thing I ever saw, because there's just a lot in there, and especially as a kid, the abominable snowman is after them, there's and
little known fact, I am actually the abominable snowman myself,
So but I
Run, Bobby, run.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the fun comes in, of having things that are not necessarily what you would think of as a Christmas story set at Christmas. And not just Christmas. I mean, other holidays could work as well. Certainly Halloween, there's a lot of stuff set at Halloween. There's a lot of stuff set around other, various holidays. 4th of July gets a lot of movies set at that time, that kind of thing. And so I think there's just something with the action stuff that's really cool about having it at this holiday, which is supposed to be all about peace and love. And then we're blowing stuff up. So, but then again, in the romance category, Hallmark has built $1 billion industry out of, Christmas themed romantic movies. So,
and they go from July to July.
Yeah, and so obviously there is an audience that craves that, because they wouldn't keep making them if there weren't people watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jenny, I know that you're
Die Hard. Okay. And it's a romance because he's winning his wife back. It's Christmas because the whole story cannot happen unless he's coming out for the Christmas holidays and they're having the Christmas party, and it's action. And I would also, and as a subcategory in that, Die Hard 2, same thing. They're going home for Christmas. The only reason it happens is Christmas. All these people are traveling for Christmas, which is making it worse. All the terrorist action is making it worse because they're, little children and happy families, and they're all being murdered. And Red starts at Christmas time, and it's absolutely a romance along with action adventure. And I didn't like Bruce Willis until he got older, but I love those two franchises.
Yeah.
So
and love Hudson Hawk.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right though that Christmas is, especially for those first two, is very integral to the plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And 2, they chose to do it at Christmas because they knew that it would be easier to cause chaos in the airport because it's overflowing.
Yes.
So Christmas was a very integral, whereas say like the first Lethal Weapon movie just takes place at Christmas. Christmas is not integral to the plot.
Right. But I think it really is in both Die Hard movies, very much so. And in Red, it is because it's part of how he's figuring out, we're seeing him. It's he's got the Christmas loneliness part that, so the beauty for me on Die Hard and Red is that they both have romance in them. I am not a very traditional girl in that I really can't stand most romantic comedies. Most romantic comedies should be over in 15 minutes if the main characters just had a even remotely normal conversation with each other. Like, I don't know, share words. I saw you at that. So instead of saying, hey, who was that guy? And she goes, that was my brother. And you're done. I saw her with somebody. I mean, it's the contrivedness is so off the charts. I can never stand it. And it's just, and the choices made, I'm usually screaming, pick someone else. No, don't leave the guy in the suit. Don't go for Mr. Flannel Shirt. Stay back in the city. So I am not I have very little, and I despise Love Actually, which is very integral to Christmas. Despise it with the power of 1,000 burning suns. It is no Die Hard is all I can say.
All I can say is that, the Hallmark Channel has me really nervous about ever returning to my hometown because I'm afraid that somebody I haven't seen in 35 years. Yeah.
You're supposed to be falling in love with that person. Yeah. Right.
Let's be willing to just give away everything you've worked all your life for.
Yeah. Especially if you're a girl. Oh my gosh. If you're a girl, nothing matters other than putting a ring on it. God forbid you have a career and goals. No.
I've only seen one where the heroine and the hero go back to the city, which means it probably wasn't a Hallmark Channel one. It was probably a Lifetime Channel one.
Right, where the sequel starts with him abusing her or trying to stalk her or control her.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that I can just see it now. The crossovers between Hallmark to Lifetime. So
all the sequels are on Lifetime. All the movie one is always a Hallmark movie. The sequel is always on Lifetime.
And not to go too far off topic, but I think it counts. So I was watching a thing with a comedian the other night who says, I get really worried because my wife goes to sleep at night listening to true crime podcasts. I'm not going to piss her off because she now knows how to kill me and get away with it.
Exactly.
So I think that is where the crossover point is between Hallmark and Lifetime. So let's talk a little bit about what is it that to you creates, and we've kind of started on this, but what is it that really creates that holiday ambiance and makes something the holiday movie where it's critical versus the one where, or book, or whatever the story is? What makes the holiday really a character and pivotal versus when it just happens to be the backdrop so that you can get the sales for that holiday season? So Jenny, I'll let you go first for that one.
Okay. I think it's something we've already said where it's actually somewhat integral to the plot, where it can't work or work as well if it's just a regular day. You know, if it's just a Thursday, it's a Thursday. But if it's Thanksgiving Thursday, you know, planes, trains, and automobiles, they're trying desperately, hysterically to get home for a specific day. You can be late if it's not Thanksgiving, right? It does, oh, I'm delayed, I'm stranded, I'm going to stay a couple more days. So I think it creates an urgency that needs to be there for it to matter. If it's just, oh, it's today, right, and everything happening has nothing, it's not affected by it being Christmas. I mean, it's just like Bobby said, for Die Hard 2, going back, they're going to set it at Christmas because the airport is going to be manic, right? 2 weeks later, you know, January 14th, nothing going to happen. It's no big deal. So I think that's really important to it. And me personally, I don't care how Christmas is used. So I'm not demanding, it depends on the genre of the show or the film or the book. It's not, you know, if it's Christmas in Connecticut, obviously it better have a happy Christmas ending. If it's Die Hard, it doesn't have to have a happy Christmas ending. That it has a happy ending is because our hero saved the day. But it's just a little bit, it's a little bit different, I think, when you're using a holiday. I think you really need to make it integral in some way. It doesn't have to be integral the entire book, the entire 60 minutes of the show, the entire 120 minutes of the movie, but it needs to have a reason beyond just it's a backdrop. And I think that's how you do it, by you're making it integral in some way. You're hooking something in. I'm trying to find the toy. Okay, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Sinbad movie, whose name escapes me, but that's,
Jingle
you know,
all
that's
the way.
thank you. Okay. Yeah. And it's they are trying to find a toy, and it's the only toy, and it's a big deal. And that doesn't happen on a regular day. So I think that's how it works, if I even remotely answered that question.
So anything you want to pile onto that, Bobby? You know, what for you?
I do agree. I do agree that yeah, if it's integral, that's better. Like the example I was thinking of while Jeannie was talking was Home Alone. The first Home Alone is very much a Christmas movie because it's not just that it happens at Christmas. He's using Christmas ornaments as weapons. He's using all of this stuff that's in the house for that purpose to his advantage. Could that
he's made a
been,
Christmas wish,
right,
to not have his family?
Yeah.
Right.
Could that story have happened at another time of the year? Sure. But it would have lost a little something by it not being at Christmas. So I think that adds a bit to it. Or if, you know, your entire story doesn't have to be totally Christmas focused, but the reason people come together is Christmas or any holiday. You come together for Thanksgiving, then something happens. Those people wouldn't have been together if not for Thanksgiving. So it's important enough to the story. Otherwise, it's just you pick the date and it's there.
Anything you want to put onto that one, Cerise?
Nothing, because they named the two movies that I was thinking of. So it's like, okay, but yeah, it's having it integral to the movie is because it ups the stakes, because you've got to do something at a certain time or by a certain time. So as that time approaches, that deadline approaches, you have to do more, be more, achieve more, and you get in your frustration level and rises, and probably you're prone to more mistakes and things like that. So it can bring in some comedic elements, or it can bring in some tragic tragic comedy elements as well.
Oh yeah, because we're always our anxiety is usually higher, especially if you're dealing with family or travel. So there's all these extra things that might 2 weeks, like you said, 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after would have rolled right off of us. Today, Christmas Day, it pisses me off big time.
Yes, yeah. It's like, oh, if your kids don't call, well, if they didn't call last Saturday, why are they going to call this? Well, it's Christmas, right? Yeah. And it upsets you because they're not doing it because it's a special day. So,
well, and one of the other things that I think it works really well for, so we've been watching Hawkeye, is I think that they've done a really good job in this. If they haven't oversold it, maybe a little bit of the, we've got to resolve this by Christmas because Hawkeye has promised his family he'll be home. And that's they're doing it, it's a not so subtle reminder of there is a ticking clock that has implications and a cost to it. Because I mean, we watched episode 3 and
spoilers, I haven't started it yet.
I'm not going to give any spoilers.
Okay, just making sure.
I promise. I won't spoil the fact of anyway. But there's a moment there where it is Hawkeye is sitting there and his son's like, it's okay if you don't make it home for Christmas. We know what you're doing is important. And you can just see that look of, oh hell, now I know I really have to be home for
Right, but that's also that adds that extra dimension to what he does, because of what he's doing to make that happen. Yeah,
it raises the stakes.
Well, again,
on a very emotional level.
Right, because again, like Jenny said before, if this happened 2 weeks before Christmas, he wouldn't have. He might approach the problem differently.
So, looking and talking a little bit more about that, what is it for you about the holidays? Because I mean, when we look at the holidays, and especially when it gets set up like this, you've got all of the additional tension and the pressure that comes along with this special day, whatever that holiday is. We just came through Hanukkah, we've got Christmas coming, we just got through Thanksgiving, all these different things. But when we have some of these holidays, it, especially these bigger holidays, it creates family pressure, it creates societal pressures, it creates some of the stuff around work, and okay, I've got to get this done before I go take off sometime for holidays in the next couple of the next week or two. You've got all of these sort of machinations going on. So when you look at kind of that pressure cooker, and then you're like, okay, great, we already have this ball of tension pre-built into the fact that it's a holiday that is supposed to be happy and joyous. Now we got to go shopping. I mean, granted, Amazon has probably taken a little bit of that pressure valve off, but you've got all of this sort of baked in there. Then you poke this, put this giant, nice, big glowing ball of stress and put it on top as that's your starting point. So from there, how do you make sure that you balance? And if you've got a good example of people who balanced it really well, or somebody who didn't balance that really well, to go and say, okay, let me put my story on top of that. We talk about Die Hard, the fact that that's really there and ramping the stakes. That's kind of the classic argument. Is it a holiday film? Is it not? Well, we all know it is. And if you think it's not, you're wrong. But anyway, I mean, if they're going to create a Christmas ornament for you, it's probably going to be.
Yeah. If you don't think Die Hard is a Christmas movie, wait for it. Fuck you.
And 3/4 point. All right. Anyway, so
I got it used. I got it used in time and right after. Right?
Yeah.
So
now, I will say that to what you were just talking about there, I think movies do it well, but I think TV episodes that happen at Christmas really handle that well. Usually, especially with these shows where it's like there are cops or firemen or FBI or doctors or whatever, there's usually that ticking clock of an emergency has happened. We want to get it solved so we can all get to our families. So it's a different kind of thing as opposed to like in Die Hard where it's I got to save these people, just and it just happens to be Christmas. Here it's they want to have the happy event. So they're trying to get all this stuff done beforehand, which puts pressure on those characters to get wherever they're going.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Seressia?
Well, I just finished watching Zoe's Extraordinary Christmas. And so that whole thing was it was 8 months after the patriarch of the family died. And so she is trying to give her family the perfect Christmas, just like it was when her father was alive. So she's trying to recreate everything that their father provided and gave them during the Christmas season, to disastrous results, because everybody was going to go off, but then everybody decided to stay. And so she's trying to do the decorations right, the dinner right, bring out the prize snow globe, and things just go horribly awry. The snow globe breaks, she has a breakdown, she's yelling at people, she's totally being unlike herself. So trying to have the perfect Christmas when it is not going to be perfect because your loved one is not there. Just kind of has that, it just was a big life lesson, but there was also a bunch of tension between the family, the pressure to try to get things right. And it's not going to be right because being human, you're fallible, things are going to go wrong. So that's my example there.
Now, I haven't seen that one, but I do know that a lot of times sitcoms have used that. There's one character that's like, this is going to be the perfect Christmas. And of course, everything goes wrong. And usually there's some kind of lesson they learn at the end of it. It's like, I was focusing on the wrong thing, or they just surrender. They surrender to the insanity and just.
Right.
Well, that's the important part. You have to surrender to the insanity and pour a drink while you're working on dinner. That's just. So anything you want to? Yeah.
I'm sorry. So and that it was like, instead of trying to follow the traditions because it's a tradition, it was kind of like, come up with your own traditions that you can start implementing and going forward. So relinquish the pressure to be perfect because you want to do it a certain way because that's the way it's been done.
Well, and I think there's also a little thing underneath a lot of that sometimes, which is I remember the perfect Christmas, all the ideal stuff, and then you discover they were never perfect. That's part of what created the experience, was the chaos and all those things. It was like when you finally throw your hands in the air. And I think that's, so when we talk about the other side of this, and Jenny, I don't know if you got anything to add to that or not.
Mostly Fluffy Death says hello. Mostly that I think you just, everyone was hitting on it. You can't recreate it. You can't recreate it ever. We had a really wonderful Christmas trip one year. We went back home to California. And for the next 3 years, my husband tried to recreate it to the point where I said, we're just never going again because you don't get it. That only worked that time. It's not something we can get again. It's going to be a different thing every time. And I think, but I think it's human to want to try to recreate the perfection. And I think that's why everybody can relate so much, why the TV shows do it, why the movies do it, in showing you someone trying so hard to recreate that perfect moment. Groundhog Day did it. Speaking of a minor holiday, Groundhog Day did that, where Bill Murray's desperately trying to recreate the perfect day to get back to it. And he can't. He actually ends up creating a better day. The right day, which isn't necessarily as perfect in the same way. So I think that's one of the reasons why we like them, because as people, we want to do that. We want to recreate the best day, and we can't. And I think the Christmas movies, honestly, one of the good things about the TV, the shows and the episodes, is it shows you that you can't, that you do need to be less rigid, give into the celebration, friends or family. There's a million different tropes that all work, but I think we need the reminder, especially as we come up on it and we're all trying to recreate this or create the perfect Christmas, the best Christmas ever. And it's not easy to do. So
and our memories of it are different too. I mean, when you're a kid, especially when you're a kid, you have these memories of the perfect day, but we were out playing. We didn't hear them mom and her sister in there yelling at each other because this wasn't going well. We didn't hear them, them yelling at dad because he's not getting the table ready. And, we didn't hear all that. So as a kid, it was perfect for what I was there for. And then as I got older and tried to do it myself and realized this doesn't work. So
what is your favorite holiday trope? Whether it's in something you've written, something you've done, something you've watched, something you've seen, whatever the case is, what is the favorite holiday trope around this time of year that really brings you and says, okay, the holidays are here. I've seen the trope. I've got the warm fuzzy from this. Like for me, one of the things that we watch every year is Bad Santa. This probably makes me a horrible person. I will tell you, when we subjected my family to that one year right after it came out, they all looked and said, really questioned a lot of things, but that's a different story. So what's that trope that when you see it, you're like, okay, the holidays are actually here. I can now tolerate Christmas music in the mall. Not that any of us are going to a mall, but
tolerate Christmas music in the mall. Nothing makes me tolerate Christmas music in the mall. So, but tropes wise, I guess it's two. It's a Wonderful Life trope where and I prefer those done in comedies. So like Psych's Christmas episodes are very funny, and they're usually one in particular, very, very It's a Wonderful Life. And it's not, I think most of that show you can just tune in at any time and you'll catch on. I really think that particular Christmas episode, you need to know more about the show to really have it land. But the other one I think I like, the trope that says, it's Christmas, is whoever is trying to do the perfect party has it absolutely, utterly fail. And they're, crying or screaming or ready to, everything's bad. And then their friends and or family rally, and it's not perfect, but we all love each other and we accept you. And it's okay that it isn't perfect. There's perfection in the imperfection. So I like that one. I know, well, God, half of the Frasier episodes are them trying to do something and totally screwing it up and having to have the family and friends rally. But I really like that. Because it is a reminder that you should not have to be perfect for people to love and support you.
Seressia?
Let's see. I think the trope is the discovery of the true meaning of Christmas, whatever that is for that particular group of people, whether that is found family or any religious elements of it, or just, coming together and the bad guy getting their comeuppance, or learning a lesson. So that's what I like about Scrooged and the original. Lord, I'm blanking on the original. What's the name of the original?
Christmas
Carol.
Thank you. Carol. Oh my gosh. People don't hate me. I'm sorry. There's lots of stuff in my brain right now. Oh, I can't. It's like, it's by Dickens. It's like, okay, sorry. First
writer brain. It's just
exactly. I need the word for what we walk with. Yes, that's the word. Thank you.
That's it. So yeah, I like those kind of tropes. So that, to me, the learning the true meaning of Christmas, the giving, the being more tolerant, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite example?
Other than Scrooged, let's see.
Because we all love Scrooge.
Yeah. So that one, just because that one is kind of funny, is funnier than, A Christmas Carol. Even though I do like the ending of that, but it gets kind of dark by the third act. So, but Scrooged, I think, was I really like that example of learning what Christmas is all about, the Christmas spirit.
Bobby?
I'm a sucker for any kind of thing that ends with on a hopeful note, or at some place in there they've, someone who had no hope, or through the course of whatever story or adventure or whatever they're in, gets some hope, and they come away feeling better. Or I mean, it is kind of the It's a Wonderful Life trope, because he has no hope very at the beginning of the movie, and by the end he's very more content with his life and all that. So I'm a sucker for any kind of thing like that, with that nice hopeful bit there. I do, and I also agree with what the lady said, the stuff about the coming together. My first thought was the you were talking about Frasier, but my first thought was the Peanuts, where they all get together, and the popcorn and the sandwiches, or things like that. But for me, there are three things that I have to watch every year for it to be Christmas, or watch or hear. One is Die Hard. I watch it every year in December. The second is Married with Children's It's a Bundyful Life, which is a hilarious take on It's a Wonderful Life, with Sam Kinison.
Sam Kinison is
absolutely hilarious. And the other is I have to hear Cheech and Chong's Christmas song. Those are three things that it's not Christmas if I don't have those three things at some point in December. So, and then there's other stuff that I don't have to, but it's great when I see it. I'm a sucker for Elvis Christmas music, stuff like that, or the cartoons, Scrooge, watching Scrooge, or the Rudolph and all that, and the Peanuts, and those are just stuff that after so many years, it's just ingrained that it's I don't have to watch it. I know what it is by heart by now, but those are just things that kind of get ingrained in us as tradition.
So when you guys are doing storytelling and pulling together your holiday stories, because we're talking about the blend of action, adventure, and the romance. I mean, when we look and try to play with all of those elements, is there a story you've got that pulls all that together during holidays? Or is there something you'd like to pull together that would be holiday centric? Because I really think that holidays give you one of those things where you've got the ability to take a story and then really amp it up another layer, just because of holidays and all the pressure that's going on. So, Seressia.
Well, I've only written technically one holiday story. It was in an anthology called Christmas at Canham Castle. So I took some characters from my Shadow Chasers universe and kind of plopped them in this castle in England at Christmas time. But the stakes that they had was about, there was this shadow blight that was infecting this witch, and they had to get it out of her. And so my main characters from the Shadow Chasers universe had to pretty much come and try to either help her or take care of her to get rid of this menace. So there were some Christmas tropes. There was a hero and heroine. They're celebrating Christmas as this danger is increasing, and then my heroes come in to save the day, and the main characters get to go on and have their happy Christmas at the castle. So was there another part, or did I?
No,
I probably butchered that. I start answering and then I totally forget what the question was. So again, writer brain.
I feel that.
But now, since you said you've only got the one so far, is there one you want to play with and do that would give you the holidays? Or is there something about the holidays you could really like to play with that in terms of story, something you just can't wait?
That's a good question. I was thinking that, it might be good to just kind of have like bonus content for the newsletter. You follow some characters as they're celebrating their first Christmas together, or, trying to make Christmas right. So I may do something like that. I kind of like the idea of doing some kind of a madcap Christmas kind of thing, with all of the anxiety that the holiday induces. Is your turkey going to turn out right? What if people don't have the turkey? And in African American families, it's all about who is going to bring the mac and cheese, and who do we let bring the mac and cheese. So there may be something along those lines with the mac and cheese competition between the aunties.
Just let me know what time to show up, and don't let me be late. That's
Yeah,
all
right.
I'm asking. How about you, Jenny?
Okay, so similarly, I really think I've only done it in one book. This is book 4 in my Alien series, Alien Proliferation. And spoiler alert, the book's been out for 10 years. So in this, my heroine has her first child on Christmas Day, while people are trying to kill all of them and kidnap their baby during the Christmas time when things are differently staffed. They have to go all over the world, basically. This takes place in New Mexico, Washington, D.C., and Paris for the most part. And there's, will her husband survive to actually get to watch his child grow up? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and Christmas is playing a part in a variety of ways. There's a lot of assassination attempts of key people in this universe going on, and they are not people aren't where they think the bad guys think they're going to be, because she's given birth. So the baby basically saves everybody's lives by existing. And I mean, you can see it's a thick book. So there's a lot going on, but I definitely use the holiday. And at the end, they go to the it's New Year's Eve, and they go to the big Christmas tree, for the White House Christmas tree. And it's just, a very meaningful thing of this is why they do what they do, to ensure that, the tree gets to be up and people get to be safe at home with their families. So I liked using it that way because I didn't feel like it was a fake use of the holiday. And it means that I use it again, obviously, every year. If something's happening around their daughter's birthday, I'm going to make sure that, we have some sort of Christmas celebration going on, but it's usually more integral that it's her birthday as opposed to Christmas, but Christmas is really important in that one. So
what you're saying, there's a lot to unwrap in that book.
Yeah, I don't write simple plot. I write twisty plot. So a lot of plot. And as for what would I like, is there one I'd like to do? I wouldn't mind being in an anthology like Seressia was, because that's funny. You can pick what you're doing and pick who you're doing it about, and it can be short. I wouldn't want to write a whole novel where I had to make Christmas important. I've done it once. I don't need to do it again. So I wouldn't mind writing something short, but I don't think I'd want to do something long again.
How about you, Bobby?
I haven't set any of my stories at Christmas. I generally set them, I pick times a year, so sometimes it'll get mentioned that it's almost Christmas or whatever. But I haven't set a story so far where it's a Christmas story. Now the last snow book that came out, I did set it on New Year's Eve because the murder happens on New Year's Eve. And so that was very important. So in the new book, which comes out in about a week from when we're recording this, it picks up a week later. So so even though it's not on a holiday, New Year's is still important because those threads tie together of what happens in this is a result of what happened in the previous. So stuff like that I've done. I haven't really said any. I almost did it this year. I just didn't have time, so I may do it next year. With the snow books, we've been doing these things called snow shorts, which are short stories that we've just been releasing as like 99-cent ebooks. And I've had other writers come in and write one. And I come up with an idea that I just didn't have time to get it out in time. And, I tend to use the word snow in all the titles. And so I was going to do one called Snow Ho Ho, where Snow runs afoul of a guy in a Santa suit and there's a problem and he has to help, I got like a paragraph written and says, this is going to sit for later.
I love that title. Snow Ho Ho. I love that title. That's
awesome. What hit me first was the title. And it was like, okay, now I got to come up with something to make that fit. So
See,
maybe for next year.
I think you have the perfect one here for Christmas snow. I mean,
Yeah, I do.
And
I do get a lot of play out of that with advertising and stuff, especially around this. There's a lot of, put some snow in your stocking and stuff. It's, the forecast calls for snow. There's all the ad stuff almost writes itself. But yeah, so it's fun doing that. Like I said, other than those, I haven't really set any in particular. It's like this is a Thanksgiving story or this is a Christmas story, but I'm not against it. I haven't had that story that's integral where it's integral, and I don't want it to just be, oh, what the hell? It'll be Christmas.
Yeah.
So, continue to kind of play with the themes. Because, I mean, again, holiday season is family and friends and romance and all these sorts of elements that come up. How do you play with bringing in risk and danger and that adventure side of things this time, around this time of year with the holidays? I mean, again, it becomes a really helpful tool. How do you do it right so that it's not either gratuitous or so that it really balances and plays out? Because doing it, blending action adventure and a bit of romance is a balancing game to start with. And if you're gonna balance it on something that's already that much of a powder keg, what is it to you about that works or doesn't work? When is something too much? When is something too little? Almost it's when do you put too much salt on the turkey sort of scenario. So Jenny, how about you?
Well, the Alien series is pretty much science fiction, a lot of action, romance, and humor. So I'm already doing that on a regular basis. And when you're dealing with, the fate of the world, the fate of the planet, the fate of a lot of people on the planet and so forth, fate of other planets, the powder keg's already lit. So it really doesn't, it just adds a different level of complexity. And honestly, I kind of touch back to Die Hard in terms of the most important thing is that John defeats our bad guys. That's the most important thing. But he is hampered and helped by the time of year it is. He's hampered because people just are not listening. People have tuned out. Even the police department, the LAPD is not paying a lot of attention. They think he's a crank. He's got one guy who's smart enough and alert enough on a day when most people are distracted to be a help. And I think that's one of the advantages on using a holiday in something you're writing, especially a big one, is that people aren't focused where they would normally be focused. Maybe you'd be really suspicious of someone handing you a gift wrap package, but it's Christmas, so you open it to bloom, right? So there's just things that I think make your characters more susceptible to being fooled or having obstacles that are harder to overcome simply because of the magnitude of the holiday. Like Bobby's story on New Year's Eve, people are not paying attention. Okay, people are paying attention to very different things. And so I think that allows you to use the holiday in a way that is unconventional for a Hallmark movie or a traditional Christmas movie, like Miracle on 34th Street, but works perfectly if you're following the Die Hard type of formula. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, because he has a very singular point of focus. Save Holly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like had he have been able to save Holly before he met up with Hans, he might Hans could have probably got away if he hadn't have taken Holly hostage.
Right, exactly. Who put you in charge? You did when you killed my boss.
Yes.
Right.
Who
put a target on you? You did.
Yeah, because once he rescues Holly, really, he probably would have been like, you know what, this is their problem now.
Yeah. LAPD, I got my wife.
I got my wife. I'm good. So yeah.
And save that Twinkie for me. How about you, Bobby?
What was the question again? Sorry, I got thinking about Die Hard there again.
I know, right? We're right back there.
All right, we're all going to just go run and have a Die Hard watch party.
Yeah,
We should. I'm
So,
all in for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it all comes, again, like everything else I do, it comes back to character. How do my characters handle things? Because our characters are all vastly different. You can put three characters in the same basic plot, and you get three different stories by how they handle it. And so I run everything I do through that lens. How does this character handle it? And usually that's where I start with. And then if the holiday thing, comes into the plot and seems important to the plot, then yeah, I absolutely would use it. I don't know if that answered the question. I really didn't remember the question. Sorry.
I'm like, I ended up and I'm like, did I answer the question? I don't remember what it was anymore.
It's like, oh, James, you're here.
Yeah. What? Oh. Well, and it kind of goes back to that question of when I've got, balancing all the elements. I mean, it's what characters do is when you're taking a bunch of the drama that goes on of, again, playing with that action adventure. Somebody's killing somebody, somebody's trying to kill somebody. We got to get the baby. You've got you've got the elements of romance, whether it is platonic or not, and friends and family and all the rest of that. When you pull that into a holiday, how do you balance all of that so that you don't?
I remember now.
Hey, I did good to remember my own question.
That's
what
good.
Are you talking
about? Yeah. Well, balance is tough. I think I generally go thinking about it. It's if the plot seems eerily familiar, that means I've seen it somewhere. You're gonna get compared. If I write a action adventure set at Christmas, I'm compared to Die Hard. Yeah. If I write a version of It's a Wonderful Life, the story's gonna be compared. So not to say you can't do it, but you acknowledge that you're doing it. There is one of the Snow books where they are trapped in a building with the bad guys. And I clearly all over it. It's like, yes, this is my Die Hard rip off, and because you're going to get
homage, not a rip off.
Yes,
inspired by.
And so knowing that, knowing those things are going to be there, I try to do it in a way where I put my spin on it. Kind of like Scrooged puts their spin on, A Christmas Carol. It's that's what I think works, is when we put, because each of us writes in a different way. And so like if the four of us each wrote our own version of A Christmas Carol, you would still get four vastly different stories because the four of us are all different types of writers. And I think that's where what makes it unique comes in. And then then we blend and balance based on the type of stuff we write. If you're more of an action adventure writer, that's probably going to come to the forefront more than the romance part, or vice versa. If you're more of a romance, the action part will be lower. And I think it's just a juggling act that you kind of just play by ear.
Yeah.
How about you, Seressia?
I'm gonna pass because
she didn't remember the question either.
I only have that one Christmas story, but so I have no examples. But to me, the characters will dictate, how the story will unfold. So if they are action oriented in their personality, then there's probably going to be more action. If they solve it by knocking people upside the head, then that's how people are going to learn the meaning of Christmas the hard way, by getting knocked into them. So I rely on the characters a bit and their personalities to kind of let me know how the story will go and how to balance all of those elements in that.
Well, before we get out of here, I'm going to put on my Grinch hat and throw one fun question on the table.
Oh dear.
So looking at the season and all the stuff, because we were talking about all the things we love and the things that inspire us and the things that influence our work. What's the thing that when you see it, you look and groan, you go and say, why no? Whether it's somebody overblew it and did too much, whether it's the one trope that you just wish would die and go away, Die Hard. And whatever it may be, what's the one thing that when you see it every year, you're just like, okay, when will the season end? And so, Bobby, I'm gonna throw that one at you first.
Wow, that's tough. I will say it's not that I think they should go away, but there are genres that I'm not a big fan of. So like I'm not a big fan of musicals. So I generally tend to go see a Christmas musical and go, but not that they're bad, they're just not for me. Kind of the same thing with horror movies. I'm not a big Christmas horror movie fan.
Yeah.
But although I'm sure I'll find an example of something that totally undercuts that saying that. But yeah, for the most part, I'm not a big fan of the musicals. Yeah.
Seressia?
I'm not a big fan of Christmas decorations in September. So
yes.
So
Let
Christmas carols before Thanksgiving
be over. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
So yeah, I lose my sense and spirit and altruism of Christmas when it comes way too early. I like to follow the holidays on the calendar year and not just because retailers need to make their money back.
Yes.
In August.
Amen.
Right there with you.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, because I'm pretty much over Christmas before November.
Yeah,
even
because
gets here at this point.
they've overdone it, and we're already like, oh my God, there's how many more weeks to go before this crap is over? And then you have a month of after Christmas sales.
Yes.
All right, Jenny, how about you?
Okay, so I'm absolutely with Seressia on all the turn it off early and please don't start. I'm hard pressed to find a radio station in Atlanta that hasn't started playing Christmas music 24/7. It's like we're weeks away. Do we have to be doing that? But I am not kind of like Bobby. I don't think they should go away, but I'm not a fan. I don't like Christmas horror movies very much. Like Bobby, I'm sure one will pop up and I'll go, oh yeah, but that one. But horror movies scare me because I believe them, so I really avoid them. But more than that, I think we only need 3 Hallmark Christmas movies max, and we've got 3,000. And it's just the trope that I loathe, which we already talked about, I think a little earlier, is that what these movies tell you is that if you're ambitious, that's wrong. You should have no ambition as a woman other than to go back to your hometown and marry some guy there. I would rather honestly die than have to go back to my hometown ever, let alone to have to marry someone there. Okay, so I cannot, I mean, these idyllic little small towns that do not exist, okay, anywhere in the world. If they're that small and insular, I wouldn't be stopping, okay, because like that's a Children of the Corn or the Texas Chainsaw Family, right? Hills Have Eyes, that's that kind of thing. And I think they set up this just ridiculous expectation of you go home and, like I said, the guy in the suit who's doing well and who can provide for you and your family, and who's supporting you in your career, God forbid you stay with him. Go to the guy who doesn't own a pair of dress shoes. By God, he'll find a way to show you what the true meaning of Christmas is. No ambition as a woman. So those just really bug me. I can watch max 3 and then I just really want to burn the entire Hallmark industry to the ground because of the message. And it's a never change. The message never changes. It's always the same message in Hallmark. Always. I mean, there is no, it's not, if it's a found family, it's still found family because you are supposed to go home to your small town and marry some loser. So that one, clearly I can rant on that for an hour.
I was about to say, Jenny, tell us how you really feel about that.
I know, right? I love them. And I know people who love them. And one year I was traveling in December and I was stuck in this gigantic suite for no good reason. And there was nothing to do. So literally I watched Hallmark Channel all day. And I saw every movie, and by the third one, I'm like, they're all the same. Oh my God, they're all the same. And but you can't turn once you get into that, you just can't turn them off because it's like, it's like crack. But I ended that. I'm like, I never need to watch one again. I've seen 12. I'm done. So
Gini
yeah.
Koch is now available to write for the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah, right. No.
Ooh,
They don't want me.
I've seen their guidelines for stories because
Oh
a
my
friend of
God.
mine and I are writing a cozy mystery, and Hallmark was
Mhm.
actually looking for some. So
Yeah.
I was
Mhm.
reading their guidelines, and my goodness, they do hamstring you on
Oh,
what
they do.
you can and cannot do,
They
and
have amazing restrictions, and that's on anything,
mhm,
regardless of whether that's from their novels too.
yeah,
They know the formula works. I mean, their formula has been working really well. I'm not really dissing their formula, and I'm certainly not dissing the people who love the formula.
mhm.
You know what? It exists because people love it, and that's great. I don't. And no, I way back at the start of my career, I actually got the whole packet from an editor on how to be a Hallmark author. And I read it and I thought, well, we need to change the title from author to workhorse because that's what they want. They don't want an author. It literally, here's your outline. What? Right? You can't stray from this. Don't try to be original. And it just was not ever going to work for me. So, but more power to them because it's working great for them.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out with us this evening. And of course, getting ready for the holidays, and hope everybody's staying safe out there. But before we get out of here, we're going to work our way back around, let everybody know where to find you, website, social media, what they need to be putting in that stocking stuffer or adding to that to be read pile for the holidays. Even though if you haven't ordered it yet, you might be in a little bit of trouble. And also let people know what you're looking forward to this holiday season. So, Seressia.
Well, basically, if you can spell Seressia, you can find me. My Twitter is at Seressia. Facebook is author Seressia Glass. Instagram is Seressia Glass. And my website is Seressia Glass. So, and that is my actual name. Believe it or not, my grandmother named me. Don't know where she got that from, but that's what she named me, and I'm running with it. So that's where you can find me. What I'm looking forward to for Christmas, sleeping, actually. So we only have one kid in the house. So and thanks to COVID, I can say it now. I can continue to be antisocial and not have people over to the house. So like Thanksgiving, we may just go eat at a Brazilian steakhouse and not have to worry about cleanup.
How about you, Jenny?
Let's see, backing up, www.ginikoch.com. That's my website. At Gini Koch, no space, no underscore, for Twitter. I have 3 different Facebook pages. You can find me as myself, author Gini Koch, aka Hairspray and Rock and Roll, and author of the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series. All 3 pages on Facebook, and I am on Pinterest. I am not on Instagram, though it looks like I am. Please stop sending me messages. I can't make it work, so I can't reply because I can't make it work. New releases. Well, Gunfight on Europa Station coming is an anthology coming from Baen, and Supply Chain has hit that book hard. It is available in ebook right now. I have Showdown on Big Rock 27 in there by me writing as Anita Ensall. The physical copies, good gosh, oh golly my, could arrive by Christmas. Nobody knows. So plenty of time to still pre-order that puppy and hope they can. Amazon swears that as soon as they're in, they'll get it to you in 2 days. So that one's a little late. Coming up in February, which hopefully will not be impacted by supply chain. I will be in The Reinvented Heart from Kasich, and I have Go Where the Heart Takes You, also by me writing as Anita Ensall. And what I'm looking forward to, 2021 has been a very, very, very hard year for my family, which I haven't really talked about publicly, and I'm not going to now. But because of that, it's just this year, it's just really me and my husband. And normally we do a Christmas dinner, and he's like, why don't we go out to eat? I'm like, ah. So we're going out on Christmas Eve and Christmas dinner, and I'm very excited about that because that means I don't have to cook and I get really awesome food. So like Seressia, we're going to go someplace and somebody else has to clean. Somebody else has to prep, serve, and clean. Very excited.
Bobby?
Yeah, we did that for Thanksgiving. My dad and I went and had IHOP. Yeah, because it's just like it's just the two of us, so it's really there's no big, why do a big, I'm BobbyNash.com is my website. I'm at Bobby Nash on Twitter, Bobby Nash Writes on Instagram, and author Bobby Nash on Facebook. I also have a Pinterest page. I'm on Patreon. There's probably a couple more. There's links at the main website. My schedule has been really weird. It's like I didn't have a lot of stuff come out early in the year, but like near the end of the year, it's like I had a bunch of releases just pop one after the other. So in the last few months, I've had Hunter Houston Horror Hunter, book 1 of 4, Hunter Houston and the Molten Menace, which is action comedy in John Hartness's Bubba the Monster Hunter universe. So the first book of that is out. I have a story in Pulp Reality 3, which just came out, which is a magazine size book, which I don't even have copies of yet. What else? Oh, the second Sheriff Myers book, the sequel to In the Wind, called Such a Night, is out. I also don't have a copy of that one handy. I was really prepared. Sorry. And then by the time this probably airs, the 6th book in the Snow series will be out, called Snow Down. And so because it's the 6th book, that means the collected volume 2, which will have books 4, 5, and 6, should be out by the end of the year as well. And Evil Intent, which is the sequel to Evil Ways, which was my first published novel way back when, will be out in late January.
And breathe.
And breathe.
And I've had the pleasure. And I've had the pleasure of being your host tonight, Jim Nettles. You can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentials.net, authoressentialsworkshops.com. And of course, here at ConTinual, I do hang out on Facebook occasionally. It looks like I'm there a whole lot more than I really am. Occasionally out there on Instagram and a few other places. And occasionally I even do show up on that hive of scum and villainy that is Twitter. But until next time, happy holidays, everybody. We will see you again soon.